Hey everybody, this is Chris from T3 Handicapping, and today I'll be going over the card from Indiana Grand on Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. If you would like to follow these picks as scratches come out, you can do so on my Twitter at HandicappingT3, and you can also read any of my horse racing articles on bettingnews.com. Yesterday, Monday, we were off the turf and in sloppy conditions, and I don't have results for yesterday simply because things got really messed around. There was a slight glitch that flipped the order of preference within the letter grades. So the letter grades were all correct, but their placement was not. And the sloppy conditions completely changed the complexion of some races. I had every winner on the card, but in some cases it was like my seventh selection. So I don't really put a lot of stock in that. The wet track definitely. Made the day a little less effective than I think it would have been on turf, but that's the reality. And the reality is too, today is probably going to be more of the same as rain has continued to pound kind of the middle part of the country for the last 24 hours or so. So I would imagine we'll be off the turf again here today. No results. But again, I don't think there's necessarily a lot of stake you can put in the results just because of how many horses were on each of those picks after all the scratches, how tightly bunched things got. It was a pretty competitive day. I knew that. I had mentioned that in the video yesterday with the couple of maiden special weights early in the card. And so I actually ended up not playing very much. I ended up down 24 for the day. But that's all I played as well. So it was a day where I knew it was going to be competitive, and so I kept my bankroll really small. Just took a couple shots where I could, and was wrong. That's okay. I'll move on to another day. But now let's take a look at today's card, which I think has a little bit more separation, at least prior to scratches. So hopefully that continues. When scratches come out, and we can really make a go of things today at Indiana Grand. All right, so we come into race number one. You'll notice one thing that I did as a change is I updated the headers here. So the green headers actually mean that the lower the score, the better. I did that to make that very clear. So class and form, you actually want the lowest score possible, not the highest score possible. So that's just something to keep in mind. As we look here at race number one, class is 21. We're looking at a projected pace of 13. Now, these are older horses, so that suggests to me this race is going to actually be quite slow. And so, with that, I'm going to go with the 3 and the 5, and I'm going to use those pretty heavily there. Um, I know that with these dirt routes at Indiana Grand, that the 4 through 6 post position has been running the best. So I think I'm just going to use all 3 of my A's here with the 3, the 5, and the 6, and that will be good enough for me in that first race. I don't really need these horses on the inside who are just going to be slower than say the 3 and the 5 getting out to the front here. So um, that's where I'm going to start my ticket. Not bad, only 3 deep. But as we come into this race, now we're going another dirt route. Uh, 19 for class, so a slightly better field because that's a little bit lower than our previous race, which was a 21. The projected pace is 22, so assuming that everything stays in, this one's going to be fairly quick. Um, with that said, I definitely like He's a Mischief at 30 to 1. Now, this is the only one on the morning line that was given absolutely no chance. And part of it has to do with you can see the class number is quite a bit higher. But I actually think this one might have an opportunity, especially if the rain doesn't persist. If the track is drying out a little bit more, I've noticed that Indiana Grand can very easily get tiring. Um, and so I'm not as confident in some of those early speed types to really hold on. A lot of times it feels like as the track dries, they can make a run from off of it. But you can see here when we look at the final scores, you know, there's 5 horses within 10 points of the leader. So I'm going to have to go very deep in this race. I will definitely use He's a Mischief, but I will also use probably Rhett Thomas. And of these two here, I think I would use Gunfighter Justice over Red Liaison, but it's pretty close. So I'm now deep in race number two. And as you can already see from race number three, I'm going to have to go deep here as well, which means this is probably going to be an early sequence that once again I just have to pass on. This is 2 year olds, just not a lot of data to go on. Four horses rate out as an A plus in the initial ratings. That would be Friend, Queen of the North, Mississippi Muse, and Lady of Liberty. I'm sorry, and Dial Me Maybe, and then Farm Safety comes in as a B. So this is a wide open race. It's projected to have a really slow pace, but that kind of messes up a lot of the numbers because we just don't have any form to really go off of on any of these horses. So if anything, I might just kind of watch the money and see where it goes. Maybe use the two, three, and then one of these outside runners, maybe the six. So maybe I'll go two, three, and six. I'm using the six because the outside's been good. Those four, five, sixes. Sometimes being away from the rail can be helpful, although this is a sprint, which is slightly different. And then two, three just seem like reasonable selections here. Low odds. And if I'm already getting a 30 to 1 shot in the previous, then I can trust the smart money a little bit and get a little chalky here. Especially when my system's weakness a lot of times can be made in races where there's just not a lot of form to go off of. Um, this next race is scheduled for 8 furlongs on the turf. I would imagine we're probably not going to see that. I would imagine this will probably get moved to the dirt, which will probably greatly change the complexion of the race. You can see that it's a class of nine, so this is a really, really good group of horses on this track. As we look over here to the side, you can see our letter grades that came out. I've got Lavender at 15 to 1, who graded out as an A. Uh, this, I don't think you can put a ton of stock in because this S type here, it's fine on turf. But when we get to the dirt track, if it gets taken off, this is going to actually penalize it here. So I don't like to see that. Fireside Kitten seems like a reasonable play. Timeless Rose as well. As you can see, they're both in good shape in terms of their letter grades and their overall scores, with Fireside Kitten here being a 101. The problem with both of those horses is they do come from back out of it. You can see the pace projection is really hot right now at 22. Anything over 20 is fast. Assertive Style, um, Curlin-esque, Native Lion, they're all very quick horses to the front. So you've got three horses moving and getting to the front. One thing that you will notice is that pace number is not going to go up. It's only going to go down. So if one of those speeds were to scratch out, this could be a race that would really open up then for somebody to come just from on the lead and just go wire to wire. And especially because that fits the track profile of Indiana Grand, that's something I'd be aware of. So um, I would say if Curlin-esque, Native Lion, Assertive Style, if any of those three scratch, I would start to lean towards somebody that's going to be forwardly placed. Race number five. This one is going 8.5 on dirt. We have a class level of 17, so it's a fairly typical race at Indiana Grand. Um, as we look over here, you can see because of the class rating, most of the horses get knocked down on their class adjusted numbers. But when it comes to the raw numbers, Showbiz Star gets an A. That's at 4 to 1. And you can see this is a wide open race here. I like Showbiz Star. I think Showbiz Star is going to be able to run really well today. If there is any scratch, you can see that right now we're projecting the pace to be a 21. But if there is any scratch, that's going to come down, and that should really elevate Showbiz Star. I don't like speed from the rail, especially at the route distance. I do think the speed from out here is good. Um, and I'm interested a little bit in Bob's Calling, but I think outside of Showbiz Star, I would maybe try and play maybe some deep closers. So maybe I would take He Takes Charge and give Tez a chance. I'm just a little hesitant with traffic pattern. These dirt routes tend not to be great to be in on the rail, and so I think I'll probably play against, but then again, this horse could get on the lead and could dictate, could get off of the rail, and that's maybe not something that I want to be necessarily hard against. So, 4 is the top selection for me, but I'll be open to sort of seeing how the track's been playing and make a decision on the 1, but otherwise I'll probably include the 2 and the 5 to come running late. Race number 6, we have an A plus grade on Never Have I Ever. Now, this is supposed to be 5 furlongs on the turf, but this horse looks like it has early speed in a race that's again right now scheduled to have a decent pace. But if this race comes off of the turf and goes back to the dirt, then you're going to see scratches, and that should really open things up for Never Have I Ever. I love this horse. This is definitely the horse I'm using. I'm not using Polo Art. I'm just going to fade that horse altogether. I might use Boa Nova a little bit underneath, but if I've already got a horse at 1.2, so 6 to 5, I don't want to be using horses at 8 to 5 within it. Um, I don't know. We'll kind of again have to see because the complexion of this is going to change dramatically if it comes off the turf. And if a change like that happens, you can always find updated boards on my Twitter account. Number 7, race number 7, the penultimate race here. So you've got A plus grades on both the 6 and the 7, Corner Tap and Humble Warrior. You've got an A grade on Shine on Brad, and then you've got a handful of horses with C grades. This is an 8 dirt, 8 furlongs on dirt, and it's projected to be super slow. But we also have 2-year-olds, so this is going to get a little bit dicey, just because again, it's always going to come slow when you have 2-year-olds because of the fact that a lot of them don't have an established run style yet, and that's what I use to calculate out their pace. So in this situation, I'm going to take a look at my number 1 ranked horse, which is going to be the number 7, and I'm probably just going to have to go 1, 6, 7, but I don't like necessarily using the 1 because it's a dirt route. So I'm going to probably go 1. I'll probably use the 2 and the 3. Good prices on those, so you can include because you're going to get your money back if you hit those. I'll probably use the 5 again, 20 to 1. And then I'll probably use the 6, 7. I'll fade the 2 furthest outside runners, and I'll fade the 4 at 20 to 1. But otherwise, I'll make sure that I'm pretty well covered there. Our final thoroughbred race of the day before they head over to the quarter action at Indiana Grand. Um, it's hard because my top selection, 8 turf. So we're going a turf mile. My top selection here is Katie's Bell on the inside. Now, obviously, like I've said 1,000 times, this is subject to change once once they announce whether or not this race will be on the turf. But uh, assuming that we're not on the turf, this whole board is going to flip, and that could dramatically impact the selections and the picks. But Katie's Bell looks like a great choice from the inside if it were to stay on turf. And again, if it flips to dirt, we can reevaluate, and that will be posted on my Twitter. Outside of that, I like my Tommy Lee at 9 to 2. That horse definitely has some ability. Uh, Only 1 strike, which is good to see. You can see there's actually a group of horses that doesn't have a lot of strikes against, which is somewhat unusual for being a class level of 19, which is middle of the pack for Indiana Grand. And then, kind of rounding out my top selections would be Honest Intentions, who will be coming from off the pace, but certainly can put enough pace pressure on. And then Candy Call at 10 to 1. So I've got some good prices here. The question really will be what price do I get and how many of these runners stay in if it goes off the turf. So, like I said, the picks will be posted on Twitter at Handicapping T3, as will the T3 boards. Those are the things that look like this. Those will be up as well on there. If you want access to these worksheets, you can go ahead and DM me on Twitter at Handicapping T3, and I can touch base with you on pricing for those to get access to these specific worksheets. So, best of luck today as you play Indiana Grand, and we'll see you tomorrow.